Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's nice and bright in here. Don't mind all the clutter behind me. It's all boxes in the garage here, but that'll get cleaned up in spring cleaning. All right, Monday. I am on to part 4 of the mission of mankind. And this part is called the secret celestial change. Man as at present constituted is not fit for a heavenly destiny. Those who are blessed among the celestials must be radically changed in order to fulfill their mission among the creatures on the orbs of space. This the Apostle Paul discusses at length in his first epistle to the Corinthians. In the 15th chapter, he replies to the questions: how are the dead being roused? With what body are they coming? The objector probably had no thought of heaven, but is furnished an opening for explaining the secret of 1 Corinthians 15:51, that those who received his ministry would not reappear as they had been in this life, but would enjoy a great and glorious transformation. This would take place when Christ calls them back from death at his presence, when he comes to the air for his beloved saints. Paul discusses this change in detail as it affects the spirit, the soul, and the body. To each of these he returns. He appeals to the plant, the animal, and the mineral kingdom for illustrations. Indeed, he ranges over the whole universe in his efforts to clarify this great change. The vivification of the spirit is explained by means of plants. 1 Corinthians 15:36 through 38, verses 43 and 44. The rousing of the soul is shown by facts regarding the flesh of animals. And that in the same book, 1 Corinthians 15, verses 39, 45, and 46. The resurrection of the body appeals to celestial as well as terrestrial bodies. Verses 40, 41, 47 through 49. Now, go to 1 Corinthians 15. And then you can read through that whole chapter, and these are the verses explaining each one. The soul, the resurrection of the body, and the vivification of the spirit. Each one of these is worthy of a prolonged study, for they foretell an experience in store for us, which is most welcome and beyond everything that we could think or imagine. It will turn all our sorrow into joy, all our heartache into jubilation. Celestial bodies. It is significant that there is a change from flesh to bodies when celestial creatures are discussed. 1 Corinthians 15:40. The difference is defined as one of glory. For us, indeed, the flesh as we know it disappears in the celestial glory when it is changed by his presence. Indeed, whatever glory our present bodies of flesh and blood may have in its proper sphere on earth, it will no longer be glory in comparison with that which is above. We are not physically fit for any other environment except the terrestrial. The process which slowly brings us down to the grave on earth would be almost instantaneous if we should be transported into the heavens, above the atmosphere, deprived of oxygen and warmth. Heaven is supposed to be a place of utmost pleasure. But what little we know by experience of the upper regions above the earth would lead us to make it a scene of swift suffering and sudden disease. But even if men could manage to overcome the lack of oxygen and the cold, how long could they live at a distance from the soil? This frame of ours is a soilish body and cannot exist for long apart from the plant-producing ground. Even on the earth's surface, he must often labor hard and sweat heavily to extract a living from the sod, in accord with God's curse upon the ground. It would not take long for hunger to drive a heavenly adventurer down to dine, for his flesh would soon fade away without constant replacement. But it is doubtful if the term celestial or on-heavenly refers to the upper regions of the earth's atmosphere. It seems rather to denote that which or those who are on the heavenly luminaries, such as the moon, the sun, and the stars, for these are mentioned in 1 Corinthians 15:41. Now, I kind of disagree with this, because I don't believe the physical universe has anything to do with the celestial. It is on heavenlies. So basically, what he is saying here, that it's on the moon, the stars, and blah, blah, blah. That's where our residence is. But I don't believe that. 100% I don't believe that. I believe that we will have a gateway or a doorway into the physical realm from the celestial regions. Don't get me wrong, we'll be able to access the planets, the stars, everything in the physical universe. But we are on heavenlies, meaning on the physical universe, above it. The physical universe. And this is what I truly believe. So I'm in disagreement with A. Enoch here when he states that we'll be on orbs like the sun or the stars. I don't agree with that. So just to clarify that, that's my own gathering from the scriptures. We are likened to stars of the heavens because of the brightness and the power of them, but I don't believe that we will be on them. We will rule over them. So ruling with Christ among the celestials is basically ruling above them and ruling them, period. The physical realm, ruling those realms. The much debated question as to whether these are inhabited has not been settled by scientists, but the scriptures seem to clearly teach that there are created beings on the heavenly lights, and that I agree with too. I believe there's beings, all kinds of beings, all different creatures that God has created among these physical heavens. We are above them, but there is billions and billions in the physical universe, and I believe there's billions and billions of creatures among the celestials as well. We are going to reconcile all back to God, and that includes the physical universe as well as the spiritual, the celestial regions. First, however, let us note that these are never referred to as human beings, sons of Adam. What little we know of nature confirms the thought that mankind not only does not, but cannot live on the orbs of space. The Greek term epinoros is indefinite. It may refer to things or persons. So far, it seems that the translators have preferred to add the word places. God is the placer. Don't get me wrong, he places. He is the placer. So he places those heavenly orbs and the stars and their orbits, whatever, in the physical universe. But a study of the Ephesian epistle will lead us to see that this is far from satisfactory if it is intended to exclude living intelligent beings. Such passages as, to the sovereignties and the authorities among the celestials may be made known through the ecclesia, the manifold wisdom of God. Ephesians chapter 3 verse 10 clearly refer to the dwellers in the heavenly places. The word place, which is not in the Greek, but is added by the translators for the sake of English idiom, puts a limit to the thought which is not in the original. It is included in the rendering among the celestials. Besides, English idiom usually demands among rather than in, with the plural. During an early epoch in my life, ere I was called by God, I was preparing myself to be an astronomer. And this is Enoch. He wanted to be an astronomer. So made as an effort to acquaint myself with the nearer luminaries, especially the moon, for I had only a small telescope. Long continued observation of its different phases, especially of that intermediate zone where darkness and the light meet, as well as the crater-like spots, gave me much to think about, and convinced me that it was not fit for a human habitation. The shadows of the mountains are exceedingly sharp, which seem to show that there is no atmosphere worth mentioning. They looked like the shadows in a vacuum. In that case, it is probably very hot where the sun shines and very cold in the shade. I noticed this even on a high mountain on earth. I held out my palm to the sun, which it burned on one side, while it was cold on the other. The sun is generally too bright to bear observation through a small telescope, so I studied photographs and observed the sunspots through dark glasses. Once I made a considerable journey to get the best possible view of a total eclipse of the sun, when the moon was fully centered on its disk. The corona could be seen, long streamers of flame reaching out on all sides. The sun's surface seemed to be in the greatest turmoil. The main fact that emerged was this: that human beings could not exist in its terrible heat for a moment. If we can't even gaze at the sun unless it is total eclipse, except through dark glasses, and when we are at a vast distance, how could we live in the midst of such a turbulent lake of fire, quote unquote? The other heavenly luminaries were too far away for my telescope. I could see faint rings around Saturn, but not clear enough to form any conclusions about it. But from the photographs and the descriptions of those who have made painstaking observations, I am convinced that none are really fit for human habitation, unless possibly the planet Mars. Venus is too near the sun, and so cloudy that we would be parboiled, perhaps, before we even reach the surface. The planets at a greater distance from the sun than our Earth would probably be too cold, being constituted as we are, who must confine themselves with narrow range of temperature, cannot even live in all regions of our own planet, let alone the outer realms of space, or the heavenly bodies, with conditions vastly different from those on Earth. Of the stars, we can say very little positively. As science, it is too theoretical to be a safe guide. And that is true. How much can we say about the heavenly orbs or the physical universe? How much can we say? Even the scientists, even those who claim to have been there, even those who claim that they got pictures and everything like that. I think it's a bunch of bunk, really. But anyway, we haven't been to space. We haven't been off this earth, so we do not know. Can we conclusively say it? Well, maybe the scriptures have evidence towards that. Who knows? I believe the scriptures are very, very important to go to. Not man's philosophy. If you're going to get a scientific philosophy on it, well, then you might as well just give up. Go to the scriptures, study the scriptures, see what the scriptures say about the heavenly bodies, and the celestial and the terrestrial. There's where you're going to get the answers. But it seems evident that the solar system is a model for others in the universe, and that the countless luminaries that can be seen by means of a photographic plate are the same as our sun, and may have satellites corresponding to it. I am convinced that we are not called to selfishly luxuriate in the heaven or of orthodoxy, but to be God's representatives to all the orbs of space. It would be our more blessed privilege to give rather than to get. It has seemed most significant to me that unless I first made up my mind to really study the Bible or the scriptures to see what it was all about, I started with Genesis and was stalled for very wonder at the statement, "He made the stars also." To speak so of the myriads of mighty monsters in the infinite field of the heavens was beyond man. These few words kindled my interest in the scriptures and in the stars of which it speaks so simply. Okay, I need to stop there. I got more to read tomorrow, but I'm just going to leave it there for today. So, my answer to that is study the scriptures. Learn what God says through his word, rather than what man teaches in the world. Human philosophy sucks. I'll put it that way. Human philosophy sucks. So don't pay attention to what man teaches. Man is a liar. Simple as that. Let God be true and every man a liar. Romans 3:4. I love you all. Hope you have a wonderful day. I'm back to work tomorrow night, but my shows continue this week. That is part 4, so I'll continue on with that tomorrow. Love you all. Have a great day.